Hello, fellow griever. You have found the Leftover Pieces Suicide Loss Conversations podcast, and I am Melissa, your host. I am with you on this journey because my 21-year-old son, Alex, died by suicide on August 7th of 2016. Since launching this podcast in late 2020, I have followed my heart and expanded the Leftover Pieces to include books and an online community where I host Zoom support groups every week. It is there, in this community, that I lead other parents who have lost a child by suicide from survival toward hope and into healing. The website is also a resource hub, a connecting point for all survivors of suicide loss. You can find me, ways to connect with me, and links to everything that I'm doing in the community on my website, theleftoverpieces.com. Know that I'm always open to suggestions and feedback. And if you know someone that I should connect with to be on the podcast, please let me know that as well. So now, I invite you to join me for real conversations, candid talk on hard topics surrounding the loss of our loved ones by suicide. I talk to other loss survivors, mental health experts, advocates, and on alternate weeks, I offer shorter solo episodes where I go down the rabbit hole to discuss things that have been on my mind or possibly parts of my journey that I feel would be beneficial to share. Every week, we explore the questions that haunt us, seek the courage to uncover the healing tools within us, and offer the comfort of a community that we all need so very much. It's true that our hearts and lives have been shattered, but come along with me, and together, let's choose to find meaning and even happiness amid the leftover pieces before us. Welcome. Hello, fellow griever. You have reached Season 4, Episode 40, and today I have a special roundtable episode for you where I came together with Valerie Norris and Jolee Hicks, who happen to be the two moms that I authored Memories and Stories with for Volume 2 of the Legacy Project that just wrapped up a couple months ago, and the book is now out in print for the world to read and enjoy. And the ladies and I sat down recently and chatted about our time with that project. And I know that I did the same thing with the wonderful ladies from the first project, and this may be something I do after several of them, if not all of them. But I wanted to sit down and share kind of some different thoughts than maybe exactly the way we approached it the first time. And Val and Jolee brought their experiences and heartfelt thoughts to the conversation, and I think you'll really enjoy their view on it. I'm going to read each of the ladies' biographies as are printed in the back of the book so that you get to know them a little bit before we dive into the conversation. And I'll start with Valerie. Born and raised a Southern girl straight from Nashville, Tennessee, Valerie Taylor Norris now lives just east of Music City in Sparta with her husband Randy and their 2 children and 4 dogs. Being a mom has been the joy of her life, and she overflows with pride for all of them. Her son Noah, daughter Ellis, stepson Rance, and we can't leave out those 4 furry canine creatures, Butter, Snoop, Max, and Kiki. She received her bachelor's in science and psychology from Middle Tennessee State University and her Master of Arts in Educational Specialist degree in school psychology from Tennessee Tech University. She loves children and helping others and was a school psychologist for 13 years. After feeling the stresses of life, building, 5 years ago she turned towards another type of therapy that feeds her soul as well as others. After attending a sip and paint party with family, she was inspired. Today, she owns a paint party business of her own called The Art Bin and helps people of all ages have a little fun while discovering their inner artists. Valerie serves as youth director of her small church and a member of the bell and vocal choirs. Val's soul shines through when you hear her so sweet Southern accent greet you with, "Hey, y'all." You can often catch her enjoying her wonderful family, gardening, or painting in her free time. She adores kids, cherishes elderly folks, and is passionate about animals, plants, art, and music. And then we have Jolee. Jolee Hicks was born and raised in upstate New York. Still falling in love daily, she considers herself lucky in love. She's married to her high school sweetheart and best friend, Michael. At the early age of 18, she became Macoy's mama, and while briefly living in Ohio, they welcomed their daughter, Sienna, before returning home to New York. Working alongside Mike and Sienna, only 4 months after losing McCoy, they founded Hicks Strong Inc., leaving careers behind to go fully in the direction their hearts were calling. They built a nonprofit, put boots on the ground, and set out to save military lives in honor of McCoy. Jolee lives with a chronic illness. Some days she's in heels, and other days she's in a wheelchair. Or perhaps more accurately, some days she starts off in heels and ends in a wheelchair. Because of her illness, much time is spent resting. However, one cannot mistake resting for sleeping, and even though her body and mind don't seem to always be on the same page, she manages to move mountains and get work done despite the challenges. When she's up to it, and maybe even if she's not, Jolee's greatest love is to share time with good friends and family. Her quick wit and humor will pull you to her as her effervescent spirit screams, "Don't give up," making you firmly believe that light can absolutely be found in darkness. So at this point, I'm going to step right into my conversation with these lovely ladies, and I think there's an awful lot to take from this for any of us. Thanks for listening. Hello, Val and Jolee. Welcome to the podcast. It's good to see you guys because for this project that we're about to talk about, we were used to seeing each other for hours every week, and now we've had a couple of weeks break of that, and I think we miss it. So it's really good to see you guys. Welcome. And if you would like to just say a quick hello, Val, welcome this morning.
Hello. Thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome, Jolee.
Hi, thank you.
You're welcome. So I've already introduced you ladies and everybody knows why they're here and what they're going to listen to. So, I'm this wonderful book because they lived memories and stories of amazing kids lost to suicide as told by the moms they left behind. Volume 2 is the book that myself, Val, and Jolee each wrote memories and stories of our children. In my case, Alex. Jolee is mama to McCoy, and Val is mom to Noah, and their stories are in this amazing book. And I'm going to start our conversation off today. We're going to talk a little bit about the project and what it meant to them and what it meant to me as well and means to me. But I'm going to start by reading the about the book piece of this so that everybody, from my words, gets an idea of what this project is. And then we're going to just have 3 simple questions that we each kind of talk to and let everybody know what your thoughts were on it. So about this book: bravery, drive, patience. It takes these essential qualities to embark on this type of project for a mom who has lost her child by suicide. The first criterion, losing your child, is the worst any mom could ever imagine. But it is what brought us together. The duality is palpable and ever present. As in previous books, the ladies and I were again supported in so many ways by another incredible mom. When my publisher, Kim, first listened to me talk about this idea, she wasn't only curious and supportive, but she actually leaned in hard. When she agreed to be my publisher, she also became my mentor. Kim understood my why because she has also lost a child. In her deep understanding, she gave me a path to make it a reality, but also gave of herself in a way above and beyond any possible expectations. I am eternally grateful for her in my life and as an integral part of this project. I plan to continue to offer this project several times a year for as long as moms miss their own exceptional children. And I take comfort in knowing that Kim will be there too. If you are holding this legacy book in your hands, you're about to embark on a magical journey into the lives of Noah, Macoy, and Alex. You may start off as strangers, but you will leave feeling like old pals. If you were fortunate to know one of them in life, you might learn something new or get to know them on a different level than before. Either is a gift, and what you take away will remain imprinted on your heart to carry forth into the world. This is how legacy works. I'm overflowing with pride for these ladies who have, along with their kids, indeed become imprinted on my heart. As I said in the beginning, undertaking a project like this is a brave step for moms who have been shattered, but have somehow found a sliver of hope and wish to wield it like a sword as they step toward healing. However, this statement beckons for clarification. We do not actually heal grief. It changes and grows, but it doesn't go anywhere, you see. You can't fix grief because it's merely the expression of love for someone after they're gone from this world. We continue to love them, so we will continue to grieve. Yet we can learn to live successfully alongside this grief, even with meaning and happiness. It takes bravery to do this. When talking about healing, we can heal our trauma, albeit with careful choices and much effort. Time alone heals nothing, it just passes. Recalling the life, not just the death of our child, takes that conscious effort and is a big step in the right direction. This writing journey also came with many moments where we may have needed to scrape ourselves back up from the defeat to place of power where we are able to recall those glorious memories and stories so that our kids' names will be spoken, that their lives will be remembered. You see, trauma doesn't erase our memories, but it often hides them in the deep places of our minds where we must make them safe to welcome them back home to be remembered once again. It takes bravery to go through this process and then record it for others. As for the drive, where do we find that when we have been destroyed on this level? Defined, drive means an innate biologically determined urge to attain a goal or satisfy a need. We don't pick it. It comes from within. The drive to leave legacy for a deceased child just shows up once they are no longer here to create one of their own. It's an instinct for a loving mom. They were driven like any mother would be, setting out to memorialize their child. The drive was not an issue. Containing it at times, maybe, but that's another story. And then there's patience. That one is a bugger for sure. Defining it is the capacity to accept or tolerate, delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset. Yep, a tall order for a grieving mom who has lost a child in one of the most complicated ways to die. How do we tolerate suffering without getting upset? We don't always, but it's a learned skill. During this project and the time spent together, these moms dug deep. They learned to be a bit more patient with themselves, patient with the process, and maybe even patient with me as I lovingly coaxed and helped them unearth these memories. The memories may have felt forgotten, but really they just lay a bit out of reach under a shroud of trauma. They got there. They were definitely patient. Just as every one of these books are written, the same is true for this one. I wish this book finds its way to everyone that needs it. Friends and family members of these kids, as well as people that want to read great stories about incredible kids. But I also sincerely want to find its way into the hands of someone who needs to know how permanent suicide is and how much everyone will miss them every day if they make the same choice. If you need to hear these stories, if you are searching for a reason to stay, let this be it. Because it found you, may it be the reason to reconsider and a way to take a step in the other direction. You are very loved. And yes, I'm asking you to believe it matters in a way that you may need help understanding. Blind faith. I'm asking for a small dose of blind faith in this one mom who knows you are so very loved. I am asking for confidence in all of these moms who agree. If this is not for you, but you know someone who needs these stories, please share this book with them today. In an ever-changing world that is full of devastation and uncertainty, we must seek out ways to find safe spaces amidst the rubble and shed light on answers. So in staying true to my style of just saying it like it is, please hug the grieving moms in your life a bit tighter next time you see them. They do not get enough good hugs. Carrying the loss lasts a lifetime, and having people acknowledge that means more than we can say. It helps us feel safe. I also want to ask that when the opportunity arises, have a hard conversation about mental health, suicide, or grieving every chance you get. Being someone willing to do this will change the world. I've talked before about mothering beyond this world, which is a massive feat by anyone's standards, so please just be kind. Being kind in general is always a sound creed, but I'm also asking for an extra smidge for any grievers you may know, yourself included. We can always be kinder to ourselves. Grief does not have to be scary, avoided, or hushed. Just like death, it is a natural part of life. If we can do the good parts together, we can also learn to do the rest. Sitting with someone in their sorrow is hard, but we are built to do hard things, and you may just find you're better for it as well. I have this suggestion as you sit down to read this book. Get a cup of tea, a snack, or a glass of wine. Kick off your shoes and pick a spot to curl up with your favorite blanket. Take a deep breath. Now dive in and let these beautiful stories wash over you in a way that transports and transforms you so that you will be better too, simply because they lived. There's parts of this which people will get to hear that are purely joy and funny. I can't get through that part without a few tears. And that's part of what these stories are going to bring. They're going to bring laughter. They're going to bring smiles that aren't expected. Some of the goofiness of our kids really comes out in these stories. But there's also going to be moments where the tears are trickling. And sometimes that could be out of laughter and sometimes that could be out of sadness. But I find that this book brings all of those emotions out. So as we start, I would like each of you to take just a moment and tell the audience that's listening who you are and a little bit of your lost story. And then we'll dive into the questions, ladies. So Val, will you introduce yourself, please, and tell us your lost story?
Yeah. I'm Valerie Norris. I'm Noah's mom. Noah passed away December 13th of 2020, the year of COVID. And I'm going to start crying already. And it was the most devastating thing that's ever happened to me. He was loved beyond measure by myself and so many people. And our lives have just been turned upside down without him. And we miss him terribly.
Yes. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Jolee.
Hi, thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Val. I love you. I love you both. I'm Jolee, Macoy's mama. We lost Macoy on February 11th, 2019. He died by suicide while serving in the U.S. Navy. We received a phone call. The words that they said were, "Mr. and Mrs. Hicks, your son was found dead this morning." And our lives have not been the same since. Our brains, not only our hearts broke that day, but our brains broke that day. We are different people, and we're coming up on 5 years and still trying to learn how to live, learn how to live life without him.
And I lost Alex to suicide on August 7th of 2016. So we just passed the 7-year mark this August, which is still really hard to say out loud. So it still feels like 7 days sometimes, like it was just a few days ago. And other times I feel so far removed from it that in itself is a pain. So I would like to start off, and we're just gonna answer 3 simple questions for the sake of this conversation, ladies. But I want to start with why you signed up, or why did you want to do this project to start with? And how about we start with you this time, Jolee?
My why. Normally my why is Macoy, right? But Melissa, because I loved you, because I love you, is how I ended up signing up for this. Because when we spoke about it, I was in a really rough place. The loss of Macoy had caught up with us. We had just passed the 4-year mark. And the loss of McCoy, on top of running an organization 6 months after we lost him, just had really caught up with us. And I was hesitant. I have to say, I was hesitant. Man, am I thankful that I did it. And I pushed through my uncomfortableness and my grief. I am and always will be grieving, right? But again, it's a roller coaster of grief, and it was a heavy grieving point, and I'm glad that I was able to, I don't know, climb out of that, if you will, and be a part of this project. Yeah.
And I want to piggyback on that by saying, I think part of what you're articulating is that when we spoke about it, part of the reason we spoke about it, and people come to this project in different ways, find it in different places, especially now that the books are out there and different things like that are happening. But you and I had a conversation, about an intentional conversation on my part. Like I said, there's different ways. Some people come to me directly. Some people find it through the podcast. Some people find it from the website. But you and I, having had an established relationship through Leftover Pieces and Hicks Strong prior, we were talking about the project, and I, knowing the struggles you were having, said, I would like you to consider this. I just want to put that out there. I said, I just really feel strongly that this is something that at this particular time could really benefit you in your healing, to help you take a step up, because again, healing and grief are different. And I felt like all the wonderful work you were doing with Hicks Strong had somehow kind of not allowed you the space you needed to, as McCoy's mom, to expand the universe of what your loss was, meaning beyond just the few years he was in the military. And again, a lot of why this project exists, to turn away from their moment of death, look back at their life, and then turn forward and bring their life with you, and not have what we're looking at always be the moment of death, which is what we spend so much time doing, right? And we can't really move our healing needle very well until we celebrate their life, their whole life, what they were to us, all the memories and stories. But it's really easy to get stuck in the trauma. And this is a way to help step up. Would you feel like that I don't want you to answer that did it succeed now, but would you agree to that was a lot of the reason that you were wanting to dig deeper and get a little beyond just the loss?
Yes, I didn't know I wanted to dig deeper, but I trusted you. I think that's where it comes down to. And I have more of an answer for that, but I kind of think that you want me to wait on that, the rest of the answer.
The rest of the story can wait for the rest of the story.
Yeah, I didn't know that I wanted or needed to dig deeper, but I trusted you. I trusted you as a friend. I trusted you as a mom. I trust you. And so I knew that you wouldn't put me in harm's way. And
that trust means the absolute world. I don't ever take something like that lightly. So Val, I would like you to speak to this point of why you signed up or pursued this project, which you kind of pursued it and then signed up when we talked. So talk a little bit about signing up.
Yeah, I had just found your website and your podcast, and I had been listening to you, and actually that had been the most helpful thing for me in it had been a little over 2 years at that point, but the most helpful thing for me in my grief so far was finding you. And when I read about the book, it was something that I had thought about doing already. I wanted his story to be in the world, and I wanted people to be able to know him, even though he's not here anymore. So, I was just very drawn to the project, and immediately knew that it was something I wanted to do. So I reached out to you and asked how I could be a part of it. I'm so glad I did.
Me too, ma'am. Me too. Okay, so now I would like to take a minute and ask Jolee to read just a small excerpt from, I think she's going to read from the beginning of her book, the very start of her chapter. I'd like you to do that for us, Jolee, if you would honor us with that little excerpt.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Okay. Baby boy, energetic, spontaneous, goofy, caring, kind, daring, hurried, playful, empathetic, impulsive, bright, silly, and funny are all words that have been used to describe you. But let me explain exactly how I think they are more than words, as they made up all of the parts of you. Most of all, if you ask me, you are somehow bigger than this world. As Daddy and I were 17 and 18 when we found out we were pregnant, we were just knucklehead teenagers doing knucklehead things. I was 6 months pregnant on my 18th birthday and 9 months pregnant when I walked across the stage to graduate high school. You graduated high school before you were even here. Yep, bigger than this world, right from the start. July 12th, 1998, you arrived with an alien-shaped head and the most enormous little feet and hands I had ever seen. I swear your feet were bigger than your entire body. From day one, you were your daddy's twin. It appeared as if I had zero to do with you. You made us a mom and dad. You made us a family that day. We were both babies with a baby. I want you to know there was never another option for us. You were unexpected, but never, ever a mistake.
I love that intro, and I am so thankful that you read it. Thank you for sharing that. And the stories that you share that follow about Macoy and so many of those qualities that you just listed. I actually think you tackle them all in the chapter very eloquently and gracefully. Lots of laughs. The photos are amazing of him. And it's such an amazing chapter. I'm so proud of you, and thank you for sharing that part of it with us. So
Thank you.
So I talk a lot about survival, hope, and healing. And for me, everybody knows that I don't subscribe to any set rules for grieving. I don't stick to the whatever it used to be, 5 or 7, whatever they used to say, steps of grief and loss, and we work through it and then we're done. That's not a thing. But I have seen my own journey, and I've now come to know some of the most amazing moms that are also walking this journey. And it's shown me that we all tend to go through survival, hope, and healing. And then there's beyond healing, of course. There's continuing to heal and grieve successfully. But I've seen these survival, hope, and healing tend to be our first 3 years. And it's a rough timeline. There's not exact, but roughly we're surviving that first year, right? And then we somewhere along the line find hope. And then we're able to step towards some meaningful healing, especially of our trauma and learning to live better. But it takes some time to get through those things. It also takes effort. And the hope piece, I say roughly 3 years, we have to be working at our grief and our loss and our trauma and working on healing. It doesn't just happen. Time passes, but it doesn't miraculously do anything in and of itself. And so my hope for this project was that I would find moms that were at a place they had found enough hope that this was something they were ready to do to help progress and step towards greater healing that would allow them to continue that journey and become more successful in grieving alongside of this. And remembering their kid's life is so important to that. And so I want to know from each of you how this project has helped you grow forward. And you may have to look at it from, how did I feel before? How do I feel now? Do you feel like it's been that step? Like, answer that the best that you know how. Valerie, let's start with you this time. Do you feel like this project has helped you grow forward in that healing journey?
Oh my gosh. Yes. The short answer would be yes. I was really stuck before I started this project. I had been going to a counselor, which wasn't really doing anything for me. I had moved, which helped a whole lot, but it was still I was still just stuck every day in my grief, and I couldn't even talk about Noah or anything, any memories, without breaking down in tears. And through this journey and digging and remembering, I've come to a place where I can share those memories with my loved ones and look back and smile and be thankful for all those times that we had, without immediately thinking, but there never will be any more of those times, and being stuck in that cycle. So I just feel like I have completely shifted where I am in my grief, and I have a lot more hope for the future now. So I really appreciate this project and all that it means to me, and your friendships, both of you, and all you mean to me. And just very grateful to have had this experience.
My pride for you overflows. And I mean that because I know I've seen the difference. It's good to hear you put it into words. And you guys heard me read that intro. I still get surprised sometimes that my emotion wells up the way it was. You would think that talking about it all the time, but you don't get desensitized to the loss of your kid. So it does sneak up. Sometimes it's not like that's made that go away, but the idea that you've now learned to talk about Noah's life in a way that feels powerful and joyful is just so relevant, so important. So thank you, Valerie. Jolee, what do you say to this part? Do you feel like this has helped you grow forward as a somewhat reluctant participant to start with, who came in just trusting that there would be some meaning to it? Does it feel like that there was?
Absolutely. Yes. Probably about a week into, maybe 2 weeks into us starting this, I had a fellow mom and sister of suicide loss ask me what our story was, what Macoy's story was. And all I could say was our 30-second organization pitch. And I couldn't stop it. And it was in that moment that I was like, wow, the Legacy Project is so much more needed for me than I could ever imagine, because I couldn't, in that moment, I couldn't talk about Macoy. I couldn't share a story. All I could give was that 30-second pitch that we've been giving for the last 4.5 years. So absolutely, yes, I think that I've grown, I've healed. It doesn't go away, like you said. And our grief, I don't know whether it's due to the suicide piece of it or the out of order. And what I mean by that is we're not supposed to lose our children. Our younger children are not supposed to lose their siblings. And that's what I mean by out of order. It's a different, I lost my grandpa, he was in his 80s, I was 20, it was my first loss. That grief step, the steps of that grieving is much different than, there's just not steps for us. The typical, or what people think, or what have you, or it's just not, it doesn't go in order, because this is not in order.
Right.
And yes, absolutely, this has been an amazing journey for me, and I'm thankful for it. There was a lot of healing needed this year, and this has been a huge part of my healing.
Thanks for sharing that. And what you did was highlight something, and I've used your story without keeping your privacy, without saying whose story it was, a couple of times in talking to grieving moms about this whole idea of healing our trauma, because all trauma has grief, but not all grief has trauma. I would venture to say that every mother who's lost a child by suicide has trauma. That doesn't mean we don't have it on some different levels. And I don't need to go into the reasons why some of our trauma may be a little deeper even, but it's trauma nonetheless. And most of us, if we haven't been, could have been diagnosed with PTSD because of the trauma of this type of a child lost by suicide. So part of what happens when you have to step from your hope into your healing is, part of what we need to do is give our brains, you talked about it wasn't just your heart that was broken, your brain broke. Our brain does break, our brain's traumatized. So this type of project, masquerading slightly as a therapeutic project, which it is, helps give you a new narrative. It helps give you new stories in your mind, in your brain, to things that our narrative was off before. Our narrative was focused on the loss and our guilt and where we were stuck. And this helps you step up and start the process of reframing our child's life in our brain and giving us a new narrative and a new story. That's where the power comes. And your example is like glowing. It's such a glowing example of you had a narrative, and that's where your brain was stuck, in that narrative that revolved around McCoy's last days and even possibly the last 6 months or so in the military. And you just kept replaying that narrative to your whole brain, to your whole self.
Yeah.
And so you were steeped in it and you were stuck. You had to get to the place of giving yourself a new narrative that was more forward thinking, which means look at his life and learn to bring all of that forward with you, right? And I would venture to say that all areas of both of your lives are now going to continue to benefit from that. And you're going to continue to work on this kind of thing now that you've realized this is what helps. This is what works, right? So I applaud you both for that. And thank you for sharing that piece. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to add to that. So you said slightly therapeutic. So this was hugely therapeutic for me. So as you noticed, I haven't said our organization's name and I still don't want to, but part of what we do is link military members with therapists via telehealth, right? It's silly for me to say, but I don't have a therapist. And I don't have a therapist because I had 3 in the first year of the loss of McCoy, for different reasons. One got married and moved away. One had a baby and went out on maternity leave. The third was wonderful. He was a veteran and specialized in chronic illness, which I have. So that was really awesome. I sat with him on the year anniversary of McCoy's passing, and I was super excited and ready to go. And I met with him a few times, and then COVID hit and he packed up his family and moved south and couldn't see me via telehealth. So I say all of that to say I have not had therapy. Yes, that is something we do with our organization, but I also understand that talk therapy is not the only therapy. And this has been a huge therapeutic process for me. And it was tough. I'm not saying that it wasn't tough. It was definitely tough, and I'll get into that. But I believe for moms and families that this is amazing and an awesome alternative therapy than talk therapy.
Yeah.
It's 100% better than talk therapy.
Right.
And people know that I'm not the world's largest fan of talk therapy for certain things. And I say that for certain things because I think that we have to have talk therapy, especially in the beginning, if we don't have, and I say this because I qualify it, everybody's world is different. Some people may feel like, and I felt like I had this. If I hadn't, I would have gone to a therapist in the beginning. Some people feel like they have a trusted person or people in their life that kind of serve that talk therapy role in the beginning, that you can actually sit down and talk about it all, flesh it out, hash it out, say all the things you need to say, which is what happens at a talk therapist. You're looking backwards, to be clear. We're looking back at the pain and we're talking about it. I was very fortunate to have a couple of very strong places in my life. So I felt like I didn't need that. It isn't that I don't feel like it's important. If somebody doesn't have that, absolutely find a therapist, or if that therapy, but I've always said, and I still believe more firmly than ever at this point in my journey and working with other moms as well, that talk therapy alone will not get a grieving mom who's lost a child by suicide to where they need to be in their healing journey. You have to be able to add components.
Yes, I agree with
conscious that address the retooling, the therapy that's, so to say slightly therapeutic, I guess, just to be clear for listeners, because I don't want to pretend that a project that's about remembering our kids, that it's hidden therapy. I don't want to hide that it's therapy, because there is a therapeutic component to this period. That's why I talk about it's hard. That's why we have a conversation before anybody signs up for this project. I don't put out there the button to sign up, because this isn't about getting signups. This is about wanting to be sure the mom wanting to do this project is ready, and that they know what they're getting into, and that they're coming into it eyes wide open for whatever the reason is. And in the very beginning, I also put a timeline on it. I told moms that you needed to be a year or better. I no longer actually agree with that. That's where that personal conversation comes in. It's going to be very different depending on the mom. Some moms might honestly be ready for this project at 6 months, and some might not be ready until they're 2 years or 3 years in. It's a very personal thing depending upon our journey and who we are and the journey we had with our child. Because some moms may come to this having experienced what I'll call anticipatory or pre-grief. If they had years of struggle with their child or years of addiction and a mental health struggle, some moms, believe it or not, come to this place somewhat prepared for the fact that they might have lost their child. That doesn't make the grief any less, to be clear. But it does mean they may have lived with this idea longer, therefore they may be in a different place or able to articulate it earlier than some moms could. And I just want to say that some of that was overgeneralized just because I don't want to try to include every situation. That would be too much. But there could be a mom that's at 10 years that this is a really good project for if they've sidelined their grief. And there could be a mom at 4 months or 6 months that's ready for it. I have had conversations with moms where I did tell them I didn't feel this was the right time. So I will be honest with somebody. This is about making sure the project is right. It's not a project to take lightly. I would say we had a lot of enjoyable moments. Fun's a hard word to use in a project like this, but to say we didn't enjoy each other's company during this project, we absolutely did. And the connection that I think we have, we would all agree, you can't see us shaking our heads, but that we have formed a connection that will transcend this project. And so this is something that serves so many purposes in our grief because you've got this permanent legacy now, but look at the healing and look at the connection. I mean, there's so much that came from this. So, Valerie, I would like to ask you to read an excerpt from your project. And Jolee started at the beginning. Val's going to start at the end of hers and read her conclusion paragraph and then her beautiful poem that she wrote for Noah that follows that. So would you honor us with that, please, Valerie?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for being such an amazing son. I cherish every moment we had together and would do it all over again in a heartbeat without hesitation. The years I got to spend with you mean everything to me. Noah, you were so many things to so many people. You were real and genuine and had no patience for fake people. You were brutally honest, loyal, witty, smart, and respectful. You were an old soul and full of life and energy. You lived more in your 17 years than many do in a full lifetime. I want to say so many more things about you if I could keep writing forever, but I can't. Just know this. I could not have been more proud of you or more proud to be your mom. You are the joy of my life, and I love you forever and always, and no matter what. I'll meet you in our happy place on the lake in the little yellow boat. And yes, please bring Opa. All my love, Mom. And this is a poem that I wrote probably about 6 months after he passed away, called I'm Not Who I Used to Be. Drowning in this grief so deep, my own promise is hard to keep. Waves keep crashing over me, and I'm not who I used to be. Stuck between your world and mine, how could you leave me behind? Without you standing next to me, no, I'm not who I used to be. Losing you was my worst fear, living life without you here. You were everything to me. Now I'm not who I used to be. You left before it was your time. You took your life and shattered mine. This broken heart has broken me, so I'm not who I used to be. I loved you then, I love you still. I love you, son. I always will. You were the best part of me, but I'm not who I used to be.
Thank you, ma'am. I absolutely adore that poem. I have actually read it a couple of times to the support group at different places that I've been because I just love it so much. So thank you for sharing that. with us. It means a lot. So I want to go towards wrapping up and ask each of you at this point. Basically, it sounds like a simple question, but would you recommend this project and why? So whether it's yes or no and why. The and why part is important to me because no matter what your answer is, I would want to know why you recommend it or don't recommend it. Obviously, to other grieving moms who have lost their child to suicide, what would you say? Who would like to go first? I'll ask for a volunteer this time. Jolee.
This is kind of our MO, right?
Yeah.
Who's going first, you or me, Val? This has okay, hold on. My brain broke. Look at that. Surprise. So do I suggest this? Is that the question?
Right. Would you recommend this to another mom? Yes or no, and why?
Yeah. Yes, I would 100% recommend this. And why? Why? Because this doesn't go away. I remember at the very beginning of our loss, people saying, give it time and this and that. But people that actually have been through this and a child loss and a young sibling loss, it doesn't get better, but it changes. I think that's what they say. It doesn't go away, but it changes. And this has been such a huge part of my needed change. Macoy is gone. I cannot bring him back. However, he lived and he had a purpose, and his purpose continues on, even with him gone. And listen, I think I said this earlier, it's not an easy project, but it's a needed project. And I agree, Melissa, when you're ready. Just the fall of last year, I wouldn't have been ready. I may have jumped into it, but I wouldn't have been ready. And for whatever reason, wherever state I was in. And I shared again earlier that I was in a really rough state when I did start this, but I was ready. And I know that looks different for everyone, the ready or not ready. Do I recommend this? I want to wrap back to that. Yes. Yes. 100% yes. I recommend this.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Valerie, what would you say to that? Would you recommend this project and why?
I would totally recommend this project to any grieving mom. Put a lot of thought into it before you start because it is definitely hard. You got to be ready to dig in and go deep and pull out things that you might not be ready to think about yet. But I was in a place where I was ready, and I just am so thankful that I was able to do this and find new friends and a new community of support, of people who actually know what I'm going through. It's been the most helpful thing just to have a connection with you guys and the other moms, because nobody else understands. If you haven't, I know people have lost children and it's a similar thing, but the way we lost our child is absolutely devastating. And before I met all of you guys, I hadn't run into anyone who really got it or who I really felt connected with. I just kind of would always leave a conversation feeling like, whatever, they don't get it. So yeah, it's just been extremely healing, extremely wonderful to meet you guys and the other moms, and extremely, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but I'm just so proud to have left a part of my son in the world where people can read about him and get to know him, and he lives on, and he'll always live on in my life, in my family's life, and people who knew him. But now the whole world can know him, and that means a whole lot. So, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for saying all of that. And I agree. We had a conversation recently in one of our support groups where we talked about how oftentimes moms, and this came up with a mom who lost their only child, and several of the moms present had also lost their only child and agreed to this sentiment, which is they feel like that one of the challenges of having lost their only child is that it leaves them as a mom, especially doing things that are legacy driven. There's a gnawing feeling at them of, why am I doing this project's like a scrapbook is going to just be left. And when I'm gone, there's not going to be anybody to leave it. They were liking it to a scrapbook type of a thing. Big photo album they were wanting to put together was, I can do it and think it's so special and nobody's going to see it. So then when I'm gone, someone's going to show up and just throw it in the trash because there's no other children to pass it on to. What they said and how it's hard to sometimes to see the forest through the trees. We all know this. We talked about the fact that this project, because it goes out into print and out into the wide world of Amazon, which is the wide world, right? The possibility that exists for many other people to pick this book up and read our kids' stories is huge. I mean, one, all of the moms in the communities are all buying the books. Their fill out of their families are buying all of the books, not just the book they were in. And they're passing books along. The stories that I'm getting from people about passing these books to somebody else, or going to a school and reading part of a chapter, or doing all these other things, it takes one person to resonate with our kid's story to make a real difference in the world. And the people that are now going to see Noah, see Macoy, recall their names and their stories that you guys would have never been able to touch before in that way with their stories, if you just wrote it down in a journal and kept it at home, is totally different than leaving a legacy that's more like, it's not like, but is as close as we can get to, if they had lived, they would have gone on to impress and imprint on a lot more people in the world. That's what legacy does. It gives them a way to still touch more people and to still be imprinted on the memories and hearts of more people, because it's out there for all these expected ways, but also all the unexpected ways and people that they're going to impact now that, if we hadn't done this, may never have happened, right? Mm-hmm. So the power of it is really huge, and I'm glad that it impacted you guys that way, because that's my hope. So mm-hmm. I also think you brought up an important point that I want to wrap up with, and then I'm going to read one final thing that's really short here to wrap us up. But you talked about the connection to other moms, and there might be people getting a little confused thinking, oh, there's just the three of you. And so, yes, you connected with us, but doing this project kind of connects you into a lot of the other moms inside of my community as well, because you end up then coming to some of the support groups. There is an after component to this to continue growing in grief afterwards, that many of the moms that do this project continue in as well. That's not something I talk about or put out there in the world, but I talk to them about it when they get to the end of the project. So you do have several places that you have now become connected with other grieving moms, and will continue to that, I think, because you have found the value not only in writing and growth, but you've also found the value in the connection to moms that understand, to your life and to your growth and health, and to our own health. So yeah, 100%. So ladies, I couldn't be, just a minute, Jolee. I couldn't be more grateful. I was going to ask if there were any final words that you wanted to say before I read this last point. And I think Jolee has something else to say. So please, Jolee, share whatever your final thought is.
I don't want this to go missed, because I think that once we listen to this, I would be very sad, because I've said it in most of everything we do. And it's because I've learned from you, Melissa, grace and space. So back to, do I recommend this? Absolutely yes, but make sure you give yourself grace and space to do this, and also ask others for grace and space throughout the whole project.
Yeah. I've become the accidental queen of grace and space, but I don't apologize for it, because I have to remind myself I need it. I'm not good at doing it all the time, but I'm better at doing it now because I say it so much, because I mean it that much. Those are the two things that we need so often. So Valerie, do you want to close with any final thoughts?
It's just that I love you guys. I'm so thankful to know you, and that I have two new friends.
Yep. Me too. Two new friends that feel like lifelong friends that we know we'll have for a lifetime. So it's, means a lot. It does. It means a whole lot. It's kind of irreplaceable in the world that we live in now. So thank you for coming on and doing this, like, being brave enough to talk about it afterwards. And I just really appreciate you guys being willing to share this. And I'm going to end with reading just a really couple of sentences here it's the very last paragraph of the last, we won't call it chapter, it's right after the last chapter, but it's the conclusion of the book. Their stories are not over, but I'm just going to read the very last paragraph of that part. In conclusion, I'm proud of what we have accomplished in this book. My wish is that you take all of the very best parts of you into this world. Say their names often and recall their stories to anyone who will listen. Please read them repeatedly, passing a copy on to those who want to hear about these young men, and just as importantly, those who need it. Their stories continue. They will never end. Talk soon, Melissa. So, yep, those were my closing thoughts. There's so much in between the beginning and the conclusion of the book, not the end of the stories, but there's so much in between that I think anybody that gets this will be blessed beyond measure to hear some of the stories and memories of these amazing young men. So thank you, ladies. I love you too, both dearly, and I'm so appreciative that we did this, and we will absolutely talk soon. Bye-bye. Are you a mom like me who has lost a child by suicide, and you want to ensure that who they are and the amazing life they lived are remembered? I have found that after child loss, creating a legacy is a critical piece of our healing journey. Let me tell you about the Because They Lived Mom's Legacy Compilation Group Writing Project. I have developed this project where you can create a true lasting legacy for your child while you also experience deep personal healing alongside other moms doing the same thing. This powerful project encompasses support and creativity, as well as elements of both narrative therapy and grief companioning. At the end of just 13 weeks, the chapter you write will be published in a very special compilation book so that their memories and stories will live on. I promise you will receive all of the guidance, support, and help that you need, so you do not need to be a writer in order to author your child's story. Go to www.theleftoverpieces.com and click the Get Support tab to find out more, and then maybe take a look at the volumes that are already published. Then remember to click the button and schedule a call with me today. Grievers, it is my hope that from today you will take that which serves you and simply leave the rest. If you connect with what you have heard, please subscribe to get notified of my new episodes every week, and please feel free to share it with others in the suicide loss community. If you are so led, I would also be honored if you would leave a review so that others might find us more easily. You can find me and all ways to connect with me at my Instagram, The Leftover Pieces. I want you to know that I know how very, very hard life is now. It's true that we will never be the same, but we are going to be okay. We will figure this out somehow, together, and we will keep our loved ones with us, because there is no getting over or past grief, only learning to live more gracefully alongside it. Only through talk can we keep their memories alive, learn to live again, and bring some awareness so that less will suffer. Join me again next week, and we will keep the talk going. We will sign off today, as always, with the wise words of my Alex's favorite, Peter Pan. Never say goodbye, because goodbye means going away, and going away means forgetting. Grievers, no one here is forgetting. Talk soon.